Okay, for real, the ALL NZXT setup is more exciting than I thought. I mean, I love the case of the year material, the H6 Flow, and the gorgeous pump on the Krakens, but there are totally products in here that are flying under the radar, and also new peripherals that are finally catching up to me worthy considerations in 2024. Now, NZXT is sponsoring this video, but I'll give you the balanced rundown anyway. Definitely a surprise of the day for me are the new relay speakers. Well, not new, but man, what a fantastic product. The new mice and keyboard products are really interesting because they're becoming more competitive, and it's the first time I see the NVIDIA Reflex label on mice packaging. My N7 motherboard only came with a single Wi-Fi antenna. What's up with that? The RGB on the Kraken fans looks a little basic. It definitely appears better on packaging, but in general, what does this brand loyalty get you? Definitely my surprise of the day are the relay speakers that makes you feel the audio with your body, and I've been a headphone/headset guy for way too long, and being able to experience proper audio from speakers that have this beautiful classic design that's not overstated, but it fits into your setup so nicely. And they are analog, so you can plug them directly into your motherboard, 3.5mm jack, or going through additional DACs or amps for additional flavoring. But they are super fun speakers. My wife even thinks I listen to them way too loudly, and I get that occasional knock from the neighbor on the wall to like turn things down a bit. I'm perfectly fine without a subwoofer because I don't need it in my smallish apartment, and I feel like the low end here is good enough to general listening and for games as well. This is definitely one of my favorite audio products in the last few months because I've forgotten what it feels like to listen to music with your body and not just with tiny speakers on your head. Now, initially I thought the SWITCHMIX device was just a gimmick, but it suits the entire relay ecosystem so well. It's surprisingly functional, auto switching between speakers and headset when you have the headset either on or off that little button on the headset stand. It is weirdly intuitive with color coding per source. We have a mute indicator, and we also have the chat mix dial with a middle tactile point, so you know exactly when it's in the center. So this whole SWITCHMIX device is pretty clever for the relay ecosystem, running the headset and the speakers directly off this one thing. Of course, we got the CAPSULE Mini microphone out here on the Boom Arm Mini, so nice petite little solution for really good high resolution audio capture for the microphone. And one thing that I really appreciate about this entire set of things, goodies from NZXT, is just how consistent the entire design language feels, especially the tone of white between all the audio products, the peripherals, even the case and the motherboard and the AIO. They all feel nice, consistent in terms of that color white. And speaking of the system, let's do the build, shall we? To no surprise at all, this was a very enjoyable system to build. I love the H6 Flow with its fantastic airflow out of the box, but this is the first time I am using a vertical GPU kit in it with a Gen 4 riser cable that highlights the aero card nicely, and it's not bowing at all thanks to the adjustable standoff at the bottom that is on top of those 140mm fans. Although for a card this chunky, I think I prefer standard mount as it hides too much of this very pretty motherboard. But the highlight here is the Kraken pump. I mean, you can go to town with GIFs and useful hardware information in single or dual infographics. There's a good looking clock, and of course all the color options and palettes and gradients you could ever want. And like I said earlier, the weak points for me are the fans. I just don't like the center RGB illumination given how advanced RGB fans have gotten lately, and in fact disabling all the RGB lighting aside from the pump and the RAM is my favorite way to run this build. It's too much otherwise. Let me know if you agree. And to finish off the NZXT setup properly, we have the new keyboard and mouse goodies. First, the mice are capable of 8000 Hz polling, and that on a $49 mouse is unheard of. We got excellent feeling optical switches, full shell without any perforations at the top, which is nice for future proofing in case you know, things get gunky over time and things fall through, but the bottom is fully open, so that's not really a problem. The only thing is that we don't have that much surface area for mouse feet. And I wish the side edges were more round and smoothed out, because as you place the mouse down at an angle, it does grind a little bit with this frame against the mouse pad surface. Both the sim and the ergo shapes are super lightweight, and the texture at first glance seems nice and coarse, but it's not as sticky as I would like. We even have this side texture for additional grip, but it almost works against. So NZXT, where's my grip tape? The scroll wheel is fantastic in both of my copies, with excellent tactile feedback and nice middle click. But the mice are so basic, we don't even get an LED at the bottom for DPI, so you just have to recall how many DPI steps you have in CAM software. I normally run with 2 anyway, but it's definitely something to know. The cable, I'm surprised, is a little stiff, and the departure angle from the base here could be slightly higher, but both the mice feel really nice in the hand. The sim shape is like the original Viper or slightly wider G Pro Wireless, and the Ergo has that standard angular shape on the right, but it is surprisingly long. It's still comfortable for my hybrid grip. The only thing, I wish the sides were smooth just like the rest of the body, because they're working against grip. Also, the side buttons have beautiful tactility. They do stick out quite a bit longer than I was expecting, but it's actually a positive because it allows you to tuck in your thumb there for lifting the mouse properly. As for the keyboard, man, I love the Mini TKL form factor. It's a condensed 80%er, and so there are some really interesting things about this one. First of all, the entire F row is aligned with your numbers row underneath, so it's really good if you have finger memory for macros, etc. There's an F13 key. When was the last time you've seen that for, again, macro customization, etc.? There is an unassigned NZXT key above the arrows, which you can assign easily to a really useful function in CAM software, you know, be my guest. I don't mind the thickness of the USB-C cable, I just wish it was more flexible, just like on the mice. NZXT, please. The main takeaways for the Function 2 keyboards are 8000 Hz polling, just like on mice, so if you're going for that full competitive advantage, this is definitely the right way forward. We have NZXT branded Gateron optical switches with 2 actuation points, 1 and 1.5 millimeters, which I prefer 1 for gaming and 1.5 for typing if you like to really bottom out. But unlike Wooding, SteelSeries, and Razer, you don't have that entire range of the actuation, and so that's a bit of a problem, because at 1 and 1.5 they might be too close to each other and you might not notice a difference. Also, this actuation point applies to the entire keyboard and not per key, even though they are slightly behind and not as competitive as the competition in that space of the adjustable actuation point. I'm glad that NZXT is dipping their feet, making themselves wet a little bit to, you know, make sure that the second iteration and the future iterations are definitely catching up to what's available on the market already. The switches are hot swappable, but only with other Gateron optical switches, which makes sense because of 8K Hertz polling and that dual actuation adjustment. So modding this keyboard with switches of your choice is a little bit out of question, but at least both the switches and the stabs come pre-lubed out of the factory. And the linears are properly smooth. There's no scratchiness. They feel way better than Cherry's latest offerings that always have some form of scratchiness because of that spring. There is a layer of foam in here, so the keyboard doesn't sound hollow, and an entire tape mod for the entire PCB at the bottom. It doesn't sound thonky, but it definitely sounds better than your average gaming keyboard. Now the volume wheel on the side here is kind of a staple for the Function keyboards. It's easy to reach, I never accidentally press escape key, and it's instantaneous and easy to use. We have the mic mute, Windows lock, and 5 levels of brightness illumination. It flexes significantly less versus the previous iteration, and also we get upgraded keycaps with double shot PBT and that beautiful sharp font. Illumination, especially on the white keyboard, looks absolutely gorgeous as long as you set the correct colors in CAM that don't necessarily always reflect the true colors on the keyboard. So it's kind of a trial and error to dial in your perfect colors. This is definitely the size for me, but a full-size version is available too if you're all about that numpad. Now, initially I thought combining both the Lift 2 and the Function 2 would introduce some stuttering or game incompatibility, but my most recent game library is perfectly fine. Everything works. Now, this ALL NZXT build and setup left my body satisfied and impressed. I love their relay speakers. The SWITCHMIX, I was not expecting to like it so much. I thought it was just a gimmick, but that seamless switch between the headset and the speakers is awesome. The new mice, super affordable and a really great entry for 8K hertz gaming on a budget. And the build quality is surprisingly good for missing half the shell at the bottom over here, but the solid shell at the top is solid. No creaking, no clicking. It's awesome. If you want all the hertz though, the keyboards are here too, the Function 2s. Much better improved over the first iteration, but still I wish they were more competitive in the price segment versus everything that already exists, especially in that adjustable actuation department. But otherwise, brand loyalty only gets you so far, but the choice is yours. You're no longer in the USSR.